Are you? I don't know if you're going to argue. Is Putin justified in invading the Ukraine?
No.
No.
I don't think we're saying he's justified, but we're trying to explain.
Well, I'm asking you if you think.
No, don't. Please, may I please finish what I'm going to say?
Yes.
Maybe.
Do you think that the EU is just as corrupt as, or America, in that fact, is just as corrupt as Russia?
Yes.
Okay. I fundamentally disagree with that on all levels.
Your attitude is the typical elitist American of we're better than you. That
Well,
is
we are better than them. What the
we're better than Russia? I don't know who else we're talking about.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You come off like this to these people, and this attitude antagonizes them just as much as them antagonize you. There's no middle ground here.
I don't give a fuck what antagonizes Putin in terms of his
antagonizes the shit out of Putin.
America in the 1940s was better than the Nazis. Okay, and they could say that in Hitler's face. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Why is that? How's an argument?
Anyway, no pleasantries. We're here to fight, okay? This is a debate.
This is a fight.
This is a total destruction debate. I've got my meme up here, my don't tread on me unless you're a Putin, and I need to own the libs, then fucking tread all over me. You know, we have a couple Putin apologists in the house that we need to argue about Ukraine and the Russia situation with. So
you don't actually think that's our position.
Yeah, we invited you here because you are both Putin apologists.
Oh yes,
we're
my Lord and Savior Vladimir Putin.
It's so funny because before we get to that, I want to start stream off by saying, listen, let's not have a debate. Let's have a fact-finding mission where we try to figure out what is true. And I'm like, no, you have to put debate and destroy in the title, Sitch.
What is that title? You didn't put debate in all caps. We need to fix that.
So just to be clear, you both are taking the position that Putin man bad, and you're not supporting Putin man badding. Okay.
We are saying Putin man bad, but Putin man has reasons for doing what he's doing.
Right. You're basically making a self-defense argument for Putin, and that's why people find it offensive. Yeah. You're basically saying Putin had no choice because he was being attacked by NATO.
No, we're not saying attacked by NATO. It's more like aggressively posturing by NATO.
Okay, so he had to do what he had to do because of the NATO posturing.
No, it's more the case of he told the West several times, do not expand further east,
right,
towards our territory. And if you do, you're going to risk an attack on our soil.
So he basically told his neighbors, don't have those people over anymore. I really don't like those people you keep having over at your house.
Okay.
If you do it again, I'm going to shoot you.
All right, so let's try to. All right,
and you're making excuses for the neighbor that came over and shot the people because they had people over he didn't like.
Let me try to narrow this. Do you think? Are you? I don't know if you're going to argue. Is Putin justified in invading the Ukraine?
No.
No.
I don't think we're saying he's justified, but we're trying to explain.
Well, I'm asking you if you think.
No, don't. Please, may I please finish what I'm going to say?
Yes.
Maybe.
But we're trying to explain from a Russian perspective why they think they're in the right.
I understand that. Right. Okay. But you can say, I don't think they're justified, but I understand why they would think they're justified.
Does that make sense? Yes. Does that make sense?
Okay.
We're trying to explain the Russian perspective.
I understand.
And if
I explain the neighbor perspective just fine. The neighbor doesn't like the people coming over to the neighbor's house. It doesn't make it. It's not justified.
Well, I actually don't understand the metaphor. Let's start out, please, because I don't. The metaphors don't work for me.
Well, why don't we start out with the promise of expansion?
Let's start with the promise of expansion. Let's talk about Gorbachev meets with NATO, the U.S. Secretary of State, with Baker, and Baker promises not 1 inch east 3 times over on the 9th of February, 1990. Baker promises Gorbachev that NATO will not move 1 inch east of Germany 3 times over on the 9th of February, 1990.
Okay. He's not talking about NATO expanding and absorbing countries to the east. They were only talking about NATO moving into East Germany. That's all that was being discussed in that conversation.
That's actually not correct. You should read. Have you read the document? The full document?
I haven't. I've read Mikhail Gorbachev literally say that, though.
Well, here, actually, because Gorbachev changed his opinion. So what I will be sending in the chat here is the full document.
He changed his opinion after they signed the NATO agreement or before?
No, yes, he changed his opinion.
Agreement.
He first of all,
formally.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. It was just like a oral agreement or whatever.
That agreement was made when the USSR still existed. Why would they be having a conversation about whether current USSR countries would be absorbed into NATO? This is a very cute part of the argument is that well, NATO made that agreement with Gorbachev as part of the Soviet Union. We didn't make that agreement with Russia, so it's null and void. That's a cute argument. That's not what I said, though.
Is that not what you said?
Well, and I'm still struggling to figure out what all the preparatory Nazi stuff has to do with any of this.
Okay, forget the Nazi stuff. Forget the Nazi stuff.
Well, then why do we even bring the Nazi stuff up if it's not pertinent to this situation?
So stupid.
Because it matters later.
We'll talk about it later. It's just fuck. Okay. What I said was, when they had this agreement about NATO and East Germany, the USSR existed. It still exists. It hadn't broken up yet.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense for them conceptually to be talking about whether countries that were part of the USSR then would be part of NATO, because no one thought USSR was going to break up at that time. That's why I'm saying this has nothing to do with that topic of moving east across Europe.
Okay, so I have a question for you then. The whole point of NATO was to protect against the Soviet Union. If the Soviet Union is gone, why does NATO still exist?
That's a completely different question.
No, it's not really.
Well, we're just talking about this one specific claim about did they promise not to move east? And by not move east, does that mean not have other countries that are east of Germany join NATO? And I'm saying that was never part of the conversation.
May I read it?
You can
not once, but three times. Baker tried. This is from the declassified documents published by George Washington University. Not once, but three times, Baker tried out the not 1 inch eastward formula with Gorbachev in the 1990 meeting. He agreed with Gorbachev's statement in response to the assurances that NATO expansion is unacceptable. Baker assured Gorbachev that neither the president nor I intend to extract any unilateral advantages from the process that are taking place, and that the Americans understood that, quote, not only for the Soviet Union, but for other European countries as well, it is important to have guarantees that if the United States keeps its presence in Germany with the framework of NATO, not an inch of NATO present military jurisdiction will spread in an eastward direction.
Yeah, we're talking about into East Germany.
He said further European
east
countries.
Of Germany.
That's further past Germany.
No, okay. Listen. This question was literally directly asked of Gorbachev. Someone says,
yes, I know how Gorbachev changed his opinion. But we have the unclassified documents.
The person literally says, one of the key issues that arises in connection with the events in Ukraine, this is from 2014. One of the key issues that arises in connections with events in Ukraine is NATO expansion to the east. Do you get the feeling that your Western partners lied to you when they were developing their future plans in Eastern Europe? Why didn't you insist that promises be made to you, particularly U.S. Secretary of State James Baker, promise that NATO would not expand into the east, be legally and quoted? I quote, Baker said NATO will not move 1 inch further. Gorbachev responds by saying, the topic of NATO expansion was not discussed at all and wasn't brought up in those years. I say this with full responsibility. Not a single Eastern European country raised the issue, not even after the Warsaw Pact ceased to exist in 1991. Western leaders didn't bring it up either. Another issue we brought up was making sure NATO's military structures would not advance and that additional armed forces from the alliance would not be deployed on the territory of then East Germany after German reunification. Baker's statement mentioned in your question was made in that context, the context of East Germany. Everything that could have been and needed to be done to solidify the political obligation was done and fulfilled. The agreement on a final settlement with Germany said that no new military structures would be created in the eastern part of that country. Mm-hmm. No additional troops would be deployed. No weapons of mass destruction would be placed there. It has been observed all these years. So don't portray Gorbachev, I don't know why he refers himself in third person, and then the Soviet authorities as naive people who were wrapped around the West fingers. If there was naivety, it was later when the issue arose. Russia at first did not object.
Oh, ouch.
Okay.
Now he does say the decision of the U.S. and its allies to expand NATO into the East was decisively made in 1993. And I called this a big mistake from the beginning. And I think it was definitely a violation of the spirit of the statements and assurances made to us in 1990. With regards to Germany, they were legally enshrined and being observed.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is that, and tell me if I'm incorrect, is that Gorbachev has this meeting where it's said 3 times over, not one. Why are you laughing?
Because Sargon's in the chat says, how petty and legalistic an interpretation. The truth is petty and legalistic, Sargon? Please.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
But we need to put this into the context. You're asking, why does Russia not trust the West? Because the West, NATO, made this agreement. And you're right, they didn't get it in writing. They had this agreement with Gorbachev where they said, and again, afterwards, Baker wrote to Helmut. And by the way, the thing that you're saying, Sitch, do you have the citation on what you're reading from Gorbachev, what year that was written in?
Link.
No, do you just know the year that he said that in?
It was 2014.
Okay. Yeah. Well, these were the unclassified.
Oh, no, this is 2014. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'm reading from are from the declassified documents that were recorded in February 9th of 1990. These were recorded by a legal reporter. They are under the George Washington National Archives. Okay. Right. So this is what actually was said at the time. Now, Gorbachev can change his opinion after the fact, as he has, but this is what was said at the time in 1990.
Well, what you said, you're referring to what you read before?
Yeah, I can read some more of it, though.
But the context
what
is
you
wrong.
read wasn't, it doesn't contradict. It doesn't contradict what he's saying now. They're not contradictory statements.
They're saying not 1 inch eastward of East Germany, which they proceeded to do. And if you would like to know exactly what they proceeded to do.
No, but why would they be arguing? Because this is what Gorbachev's saying, and what he's saying makes sense. If the time that agreement was made, when was this? 1990?
1990, February 1990.
If in 1990, there's nowhere east for NATO to go, because if you leave Germany, it's the USSR.
Totally.
Them saying it's not going to move east doesn't make sense. Obviously, NATO's not going to move into and invade USSR. That doesn't. Why would they be having that conversation?
Yeah, the USSR was dissolved after that.
So but again, this is legalistic.
It's not legalistic.
It's the truth.
No, wait. It's not legalistic. I'm explaining the context of the statement. It's not the context of the statement was only about East Germany. It was not about countries east of East Germany, because those countries were part of the USSR. They wouldn't be having a conversation about that at that time.
It was obvious in 1990 when they were having this discussion that the USSR was collapsing, right?
I don't think it wasn't obvious. I thought it was a surprise to everyone until it basically happened. Like, people were seeing decline, but it wasn't.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that.
Well, this is what Gorbachev is saying, and he was the guy that was there. So I don't know.
Ukraine wasn't even a nation until 1991.
I agree that Russia is an aggressor in all of these situations. But when you look at what's happened, so there's this agreement, right? There's this agreement. Now you can say, well, it doesn't really matter because I didn't get it in writing. And I have to say
I'm not saying that, though.
No, but I've seen that. Okay, I've seen that argument. I've seen that argument so many times of, well, stupid Ruskies didn't get it in writing. Fuck you. We're going to do what we want. And I unironically have seen that.
Why is this agreement relevant, though?
Right.
Why is it relevant? Because because again, we're trying to explain the Russian perspective on why they're reacting the way that they're reacting. Correct? That's what I've said.
These are excuses, though.
Well,
it's not an excuse. If you're a Russian and you were told that that NATO is not going to expand 1 inch eastward, and then they do it, well, it looks like the U.S. lied to you, right?
Yeah, but what if my interpretation?
And by the way, they didn't just lie to Gorbachev. They lied to Yeltsin in 1993.
So hold on a second. If my interpretation of the not move east line, which apparently was Gorbachev's interpretation in 2014, is correct.
It's not an interpretation. It's in the minutes.
Then they didn't break the deal.
No, but what I'm saying is that they didn't break the deal, and it's just people not understanding the context of the conversation.
Right.
Then all that means is that, Putin says that, and he's telling Russian people that, but he's just lying.
Yeah, he's not lying his ass off.
It's not lying. Here's the other documents from Yeltsin in 1993. Where it's that he's told the same thing, that NATO expansion is not going to happen. And what happens? What happens in 1993? The Clinton administration, in alliance with NATO, tells Yeltsin, again, we're not going to move. We're not going to keep moving eastward. And then what happens? They move eastward.
Where in the thing did the 1993 conversation take place? Because I haven't seen that.
I just posted the link.
No, but I mean, like in the link. What am I looking for here? Because this is why I'm confused. Because I have an article from 1993, and it says Russian President Boris.
These documents were declassified in 2018.
No, I understand that.
But the documents are from 1993.
I'm just saying, point me to where you're reading then in this article, or tell me what I can Control F to look at the segment you're talking about.
You don't have that 1 inch east in this, but it's okay. Yeah, green light. That would be it.
Is it the U.S. green light document notes that almost immediately
seemed to give a green light to NATO expansion. Nelson himself said about a discussion of possible NATO expansion with his public remarks in Warsaw in August of 1993, where he acknowledged the Helsinki Act rights of countries to choose their alliances seemed to give a green light of NATO expansion. The U.S. green light, and by the way, and this is not what they were asking for. And when it turns to the green light of NATO expansion, what happens? They do engage in NATO expansion.
Okay, but this is why I'm confused, because I have an article. This is from 1993, August 25th, 1993. And it says, Russian President Boris Yeltsin said Wednesday, his nation must respect Poland's desire to join NATO because both nations are sovereign and the old big brother relationship is over. Yeltsin and Polish President Lech Walesa also announced that the last Russian troops, some 2,500 unarmed soldiers guarding former Soviet garrisons in Poland, will be pulled out by October 1st, 3 months ahead of schedule. Yeltsin was in Warsaw to sign a series of cooperation agreements with Poland, blah, blah, blah. The ice of distrust has melted between our countries, Yeltsin said, in comparing his Warsaw visit with that of her visit to Moscow. Although many issues still separate the two countries, which have been historically distrustful of each other, the wording of joint declarations signed by the two presidents indicate a change in Russia's outright opposition to NATO membership for any of its former satellites. Quote, times have changed and now there exist two sovereign countries, Yeltsin said. Following the brief signing ceremony, one has to respect their positions.
I mean,
and Yeltsin was president of Russia
at the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, is Cuba allowed to host missiles on your border?
Why are you changing the topic?
Well, wait a minute.
Stop running away from this.
I know. I'm not running away from this. I mean, Spoon has a good point, but it is running away from this.
It's whataboutism.
Hang on.
No,
you know how whataboutism makes us feel. We don't allow whataboutism on this stream.
I'm not doing the whataboutism. I'm trying to move it back. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So
keep your woman in line.
I'm the one who did it.
He was talking about Spoon.
Oh shit. Okay, so it wasn't just Poland. In March 12th of 1999, it's not just Poland, it's the Czech Republic and Hungary and Poland that ascend to full NATO membership. And it's not just them. In 2004, then also Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, and Slovakia, and Slovenia all also become NATO members. Now, if you're Russia, and you do have this, even if we think Yeltsin moved back on it. The initial deal, and you could say, again, fucking idiot, Gorbachev didn't get it in writing. Well, the kind of idea was they weren't supposed to move in like this. And at this point, if you're Russia and you're looking at your border, and specifically what you have to be looking at is the large plainal region that goes from Ukraine over through into Moscow, which is a large swath of very flat, easily invadable land. So that's why Russia sees Ukraine as a buffer state and why it's very important for Russia to keep Ukraine either independent or within their sphere of influence, right? They've lost everything else into NATO. And if you understand Article 5 of NATO, what that means is that if it starts engaging in any kind of warfare, it can be NATO aggression, or one of the NATO countries' aggressions, or it can be Russia's aggression. Then the entirety of NATO goes to war in alliance with their partner.
That's the whole point of NATO. Yeah, it's a great thing. Why is the aspirations of the Ukrainian people being reduced to buffer state? My God, that's so terrible. How can you even call yourself a libertarian, Aydin, when you want to say
I want
their
Ukraine to be independent.
aspiration in life to be a buffer between Europe and Russia?
Well, NATO countries are independent countries. subject to. They're not subject to American rule.
No, they're not. They're actually not independent because of Article 5. That if one country goes to war, they all have to go to war.
No, right. But I mean, like in terms of like,
it's just
like
treaty,
Biden doesn't pass a law, and well, I mean, yeah, that's a joint mutual defense agreement. Like Biden doesn't pass a law in America, and then like Ukraine is suddenly has to follow whatever law Biden passes. It's not like with the USSR, it is that way. Like they were governing these other countries, and they were dictating.
The USSR hasn't existed since 1990.
Right, but okay, that's even true of Russia absorbing other countries now. They have legal jurisdiction over these countries. So that's why, like, if Ukraine joins NATO, it's still an independent country, and it should be viewed as an independent country.
Yeah, what is your way, but Russia doesn't see it that way.
Aydin, I'm curious. What is your argument for the Ukrainians' obligation to be a buffer state that doesn't join NATO? What is your argument for why that's their aspiration in life? Well, you're basically making the argument. You're making the argument. You're making the argument that Putin has every right to invade the country if they join NATO. That's basically the argument you're making.
That's not what I said at all.
Well, then what argument are you making?
I'm saying that I want Ukraine to be completely independent and not involved either in the CSTO or in NATO. They should be an independent country.
Why is it your decision?
Yeah, isn't that the decision of? Well, it's not any decision, but obviously she's not saying it is. It's not Russia's decision either. It should be up to the people of Ukraine to make that decision. And if the people of Ukraine,
their government is so heavily corrupt that there's no way you're going to get that.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, so I feel like
we're having a different conversation here. Yeah.
No, but that's relevant. But that's before we move on to whether that's
can you guys put yourselves in the position of Russia and that they also have
they're a bunch of pussies.
Yes. Well, I can't.
Okay,
well,
that is an extremely American point of view.
Here's what I've learned from my research. We shouldn't be characterizing this as Russia has a problem with NATO because that's not true.
How do you know
Putin
that?
personally has a problem with NATO.
Putin
asked to join NATO.
That's true.
Putin asked to join NATO.
No,
he did.
Hold on.
Oh no! Oh no!
And here's why. Okay, because when I look at and I'll read a thing. When I look at Yeltsin's comments and I look at Gorbachev's comments, and even when I look at President Medvedev's comments when he was briefly president in between Putin, even though Putin was still the puppet master, all these people had a lot more friendly views with the West and NATO, and Putin doesn't. Putin despises not just NATO, he despises the West and he despises America. And all of this stuff that's happening right now is really coming from him. It's not coming from this, what I would argue is a realistic concern of Russia to be invaded by NATO at some point.
Could you try to understand why it's not just Putin, it's why a significant portion, not by the way, the majority, but why a significant portion of Russians don't trust the West when they see in their history, and that we don't see it this way, but they see it, and you can call it Putin propaganda, but I just sent you the documents of these agreements.
Yeah, but we're disputing the context of the statement.
Yeah,
but I'm saying
what is the point? What is the point of you bringing up that they don't trust the West? Who cares? How is that even relevant? We're not asking for them to trust us.
How is that even relevant? Are you kidding me?
Is this
We're not
asking.
Is
that a joke?
Expansion right up to their border.
You're asking.
You don't think they have a right to think like, I'm kind of cagey.
They have every right. They have every right to freak the shit out about it. They do, but they don't have the right to invade a sovereign country over that.
Because okay, as I explained, or I tried to explain, if NATO takes Ukraine, right? And let's say you're Russia and you have seen the US in your perspective, from your perspective, back out of its agreements that it made with you to not expand 1 inch eastward, and it keeps doing it, and it keeps doing it, and it keeps doing it. And wait, may I please finish my statement here? Mm-hmm. And now they're going to take Ukraine. And the reason why that's very important, because as I explained, there's this plain old region that goes right from Ukraine into Moscow. It's a straight march. There's no physical geographical barriers. And if you want to set up a bunch of missiles, if you're Russia and you think that NATO is aggressive, which it probably appears to be, considering that from your perspective, they've lied about not moving eastward, and they have. And now they want to take this barrier state, or what you perceive as a barrier state, and which, by the way, you also probably perceive as a fake government. And we can get into why they think that Ukraine has a fake government. that's covered by the West. then you would be terrified by having Ukraine become part of NATO, because it's like, okay, well, now they're going to set themselves up right at our last fucking border, right on a straight line into Moscow. That's terrifying if you're Vladimir Putin. I'm just saying.
Well, let me ask you one question, two parts. Okay. Do you think it's realistic that at some point in the near future that NATO will invade the nuclear power that is Russia? And part two of that question, do you think it's reasonable for Putin to think that at some point NATO is going to physically invade the nuclear power that is Russia?
Okay, but here's the problem with that. If you put the Ukraine forces with NATO, if there is any aggressive action on behalf of any of the NATO states, and Russia in any way fires on it, the entire NATO is called out upon Russia. That's his concern.
That wasn't
and
the
I don't think
question
that is
that
an
he
unreasonable
asked.
concern.
Okay, but we can talk. That can be a follow-up.
Okay, but US is part of NATO, so US would be obligated.
He asked a very specific question.
But do you think it's reasonable to be afraid that NATO is going to invade Russia?
Are NATO jets going to breach Russian airspace and attack Moscow? He's asking you a very specific question.
Again, the issue is, and I'm not saying, by the way,
I don't know what's going through his head.
Hang on.
Whose head?
Well, Putin. But I'm saying,
Putin doesn't control NATO jets. He's asking you a question about NATO.
Do you think it's reasonable for that to be a fear? Yes.
May I answer?
Yes.
I don't think it's necessarily reasonable. But I've used this metaphor before, and I think it is apt. If you've ever played Civilization or any kind of 4X game, and who you see as the enemy, or who is aggressive towards you, and not necessarily, and by the way, particularly after 5 years of the United States media saying that Putin and Russian bots hacked the United States election, where it's pretty clear we're not very pro-Russia, and then you see them as amassing troops. That's how you have to see it. You have to. Again, I am not defending Putin's actions at all.
Well, you are.
Invasion of. I'm not. Please,
you're justifying them. You're very much justifying them. I don't know how you can say you're not.
I'm trying to explain it from the Russian perspective. I'm not justifying it.
We all understand the Russian perspective, okay?
No, I don't think you do. I guess don't think you
don't.
Well, maybe what I'm arguing is, well, first of all, I don't think it's the Russian perspective. I think it's Putin's perspective, and I think it's propaganda, and I don't think it's valid.
How is
because
that
propaganda? Because I don't think it's based on reality. I think the main thing here is nothing to do with the physical safety of Russia. I think the main thing is this is about controlling Ukraine for economic reasons. It has nothing to do with being afraid militarily.
And you've already admitted that Putin's perception deviates from reality, because you yourselves are saying that NATO wouldn't do that.
I'm saying that. Okay, yes, I don't
Putin
think NATO
is
would
wrong.
do that.
You've admitted Putin is incorrect. He is afraid of nothing.
Sargon told me to ask Adam, what does he think America and NATO have ever done wrong?
I know, and I was going to respond. Sargon, what aboutism? You're above it, okay? Seriously.
But that doesn't answer the question.
It does. Like, what is the argument you're making? Are you making the argument that because America is not perfect, that we can't have a conversation about whether or not the Ukrainian people want to move more towards a democracy or an autocracy? It's completely off topic.
But it's not, because neither of us are taking the position that America is without fault.
Yeah,
we were both against the war in
Iraq.
We both think the war in Iraq was horribly managed, and war in Afghanistan was horribly managed. I don't know enough about NATO's military interactions to say what specifically NATO has done wrong in the past, but I'm sure they've done things wrong.
If you'd like to come on, I would love to have you come on, because I think Sargon probably has a point in between.
Sargon's in bed, man. Let him bitch at us from the chat, okay? Sargon knows he can come on. Mm-hmm. Let's before we let it pass, okay? I think the main point that Sitch and I both want to make is that there is this situation where nations move from being corrupt autocracies, total shitholes, to first world democracies, right? That's a thing that happens.
It's a liberal hegemony.
But again, it is liberal hegemony.
So hold on a second here.
Liberal hegemony
you're saying that's a liberal fiction. You're saying that South Korea isn't a thriving Western style democracy now. You're saying that there's no difference between South Korea and North Korea, that those paths didn't diverge.
We didn't say that, actually.
Please don't put words in our mouth.
So hold on. Then what are you saying? Go ahead.
But the liberal hegemony argument?
But the liberal hegemony part?
Yeah, you can't say that like this path that nations take is a fiction when we can see real world evidence of it.
Well, the liberal hegemony one is the America's argument. Well, it's Professor Mearsheimer's argument. Yes, that America, once they attain the status of a superpower post the collapse of the Soviet Union, is that America goes into different countries and tries to change into a liberal democracy at the battle of a gun, which is what you did in the Middle East.
Let's set aside.
We're not in favor
Wait, why?
of that. No,
why are you setting aside the research of
you
what
guys
the most
did this?
No.
Let's set aside
into Ukraine and force them to become a liberal democracy. And
yeah,
neither
we
of
didn't
us
do
are
any
in
of that.
favor. Yeah, neither of us are in favor of going in and forcing countries. We don't even think that works. I think that's why a lot of what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan failed.
Of course, it doesn't work.
People have to want the change on their own.
Right,
and
exactly.
What Adam and I are seeing is that it seems like Ukraine is wanting to change on its own to be more of a liberal democracy and detach itself from Russia. And Russia's coming in and saying, no, fuck you.
Listen, hold on. Listen to the laughing. Listen to the interrupting. Can he at least finish the point that he's making? We're trying to make a point here.
It's fine. It doesn't bother me.
But I'm not laughing.
Sorry
I'm not laughing at all.
Aydin.
That's so fine.
Let's set aside. Let's think about what.
I'm not laughing. I'm
can
trying to be ridiculous.
Can I just? Oh, you want to speak?
Adam,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Aydin. Go on. Finish your point.
Do we want to talk about?
So you didn't have a point. Oh, you're just interrupting. Okay. Well, can I make my point? I actually have a point.
Okay. I was actually trying to just apologize and say I'm not laughing. All right. Never mind.
It's how long before the tears begin? That's what I want to know.
Oh my God.
I'm not. Goddamn.
Do we want to talk about?
No, I want to talk about this thing because it's so important to the whole debate that everybody is having here. Okay, yes. We're saying that it's possible for countries to go from being a shithole puppet of other people to being, deciding their own destiny.
Of the EU.
Why must you interrupt? I'm trying to make my point.
Do you think that?
Hold on, Sitch. Now you're interrupting, Sitch. I just want to say, look, this. Set aside the action because they're disagreeing with the action of that happening. They're saying that liberals want to say that they're the ones that are responsible for doing this. Let's set aside the action. You guys seem to be against the fact that that can even happen. That's an impossible thing. Okay, Adam, so it can happen.
No,
so it can't. That's all I want. So shut up. I don't give a fuck about that. Okay, you admit that it can happen. That's all I care about. Now we can move on.
Yes, but this is not going to be done by an organization
I don't give
like
a fuck.
the EU.
I don't give a fuck how you think
because this is what you want to happen. Well,
right. It's not what I want. It's not what I want. Okay,
well, then why do you advocate for the intervention then?
Okay, well, wait a minute. I agree that U.S. or the EU or NATO can't militarily go into
them to do
Ukraine
anything
and say be a liberal democracy. But
that is a straw man argument of our position.
But what can happen is that these countries say, "Hey, NATO, we want to join you," or they say, "Hey, EU, we want to join or have favorable trade relations with you," and then NATO and EU says, "If you want that, you have to enact these series of reforms to combat corruption," which is literally what was happening in Ukraine.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
do we want to talk about what was happening in Ukraine?
Can I make a question? Just what makes you think? Okay, I want to just a simple question.
Right.
What makes you think that's actually going to work?
Because it has worked in the past.
Yeah, it's worked in the past.
I mean, how else do countries?
How did South Korea happen?
Yeah. Exactly. How do countries?
Because Western, you need Western liberal hegemony to come in and tell other countries how to operate.
Oh, see, you're just framing it.
No. Again,
no,
I'm not saying that they come in and tell them. These countries want to join. They look at these organizations and they say, "We want to join that." And those organizations say, "Okay, here's requirements."
Yes, you want to be in our club. You have to follow our rules. We don't say, "Hey, you have to come be in our club." We make our club.
Right. I mean,
we make our clubhouse cool.
Yanukovych could have said, "I don't want to be part of this EU deal. Fuck you." He could have made that. He made that after Russia basically embargoed all trade from Russia and Ukraine.
And let me tell you what
you guys are doing with the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Why do you Why is whataboutism the only fucking argument you have?
It's just a point of hypocrisy that you do the same things that you're accusing the Russians of. That's my point.
Please respond to this.
So let me just get this straight. Your argument that you're making here is because somebody else did it, that it's okay for Russia to do it. Is that the argument you're making, Spoon?
No, I'm not making that.
Then why do you keep saying what about you?
Is this during the Euromaidan?
I am the Ukrainian, the native of Kiev. And now I am on Maidan, on the central part of my city. I want you to know why thousands of people all over my country are on the streets.
I mean, Sitch, he's cute. I'm kind of won over already. I mean, I'm ready to...
propaganda was successful.
I'm ready to protest.
Yes.
Sign me up. Yep. Oh, wait. The cops are using iron billy bats? I think I'm going to stay home.
There is only one reason. We want to be free from a dictatorship. We want to be free from the politicians who work only for themselves, who are ready to shoot, to beat, to injure people just for saving their money, just for saving their houses.
That guy in the video there, they stripped down naked, butt naked, and made him get on the bus. How do you feel about that, Aydin?
Look, I'm not saying... I have never once in this entire stream said either part of the Ukrainian government or these protests is not completely and utterly corrupt.
This is like Trudeau's crackdown on the trucker protest times 1,000.
How so?
It's very
How
bad.
so? Listen, what trucker was stripped down naked and marched through the street and fucking aimed at people, saying, "Look at this!
In the freezing cold.
This is what's going to happen to you." This guy's butt naked. He doesn't have any underwear on, okay? They marched this guy butt fucking naked.
I mean, they did. And I'm not defending the government here, but I'm also saying that this was paid for, and I will show you who paid for this advertisement.
Okay, let's keep going.
Just to saving their power. I want these people who are here, who have dignity, who are brave, I want them to live a normal life. We are civilized people, but our governments are barbarians. That's not a Soviet Union. We want our courts not to be corrupted. We want to be free.
Oh my God, they want their courts to be uncorrupted. What a terrible thing to want. Aydin, I'm so glad you played this video. I feel your pain.
I understand that you're love the
we'll
propaganda.
have no phone, no.
What? Hold on. You admitted their courts are corrupt. Your whole argument is the whole fucking state is corrupt.
The video, not the bloody thing.
Well, wait a second here. Propaganda. Let's be clear about what propaganda is, okay? Propaganda.
This is legitimate propaganda. I will show you who paid for this. I will show you who paid for this, and it's not the Ukrainian people. It's the U.S. government.
Aydin. Propaganda is lies to sell to cover over the truth.
From a foreign government to sell a narrative. And by the way, yes, the Ukrainian government is corrupt.
A narrative that
but this was paid for by the United States government.
Aydin, you yourself have already agreed in this debate that this narrative is true.
Yeah.
Factually correct. How is that propaganda?
Because this was paid for by a foreign government.
So just because somebody pays for something, that's what makes it propaganda? I thought it was lying to the population to smooth over the corruption. That's what I thought propaganda was.
Well, we'll have to get into more about the Revolution of Dignity.
So let me so you don't dispute any of the factual claims made in this video. You just object to the fact. So what do you dispute?
You know what's going on here right now? Let me just explain this, right? This is a long story, and you fuckers are interrupting her when she's like in chapter 1 and there's like 5 to go.
First of all, I haven't interrupted at all.
No, you're fine.
No, that's true. Sitch has not interrupted. But
I think this is important. I think this is important.
When I talked about that, I wanted to start by talking about before the Euromaidan protests, or right when they're beginning, is when the last of these tech camps start. This video is produced. It is produced. This is not, if it seems to you like this is just made by some like woman with a video camera in the middle of Ukraine. No, it's not.
Well, I mean, it's too professionally done to be done by like some random.
For being able to understand that. Right. It's produced by Western interests. Okay.
This is great stock footage that they've drawn up. Like, this is on point. This is key.
This is not stock footage, Sitch.
Well, I mean, like, I'm sorry, B-roll. I'm sorry. This is great
reason
B-roll.
I bring this in immediately after talking about the tech camp is that you read, and by the way, to be clear, the article that you read, where was that from? It was from the U.S. State Department. Yes.
Right. So bad. It's like, okay.
Yes.
Internet.
So the U.S. State Department said they were doing this.
Okay, we won't pause it. I just want to watch the end of this.
I'm not going to, I promise not to pause.
Okay, let's watch the end of this.
Alone here. And maybe policemen will murder us one after another when it will be dark here.
And terrible shit happened. No fucking lies.
That's why I ask you now to help us. We have this freedom inside our hearts. We have this freedom in our minds. And now I ask you to build this freedom in.
I just want to say, obviously, this is pro-Western propaganda because she's speaking in English, so it's obviously aimed at an American English speaking audience. But
and ask and listen to what she's about to ask.
Yeah, she's asking for help.
Our country. You can help us only by telling this story to your friends, only by sharing this video. Please share it. Speak to your friends, speak to your family, speak to your government, and show that you support us.
Not asking for money, asking for you to share the information to your friends, your family, your government. Okay?
Right. Okay.
To be very clear, this is not asking for like support for like a fund for people who have been suffering under these protests.
Implicitly asking, it says right there, please contact your representative and demand they support the Ukrainian people in their fight for freedom and democracy. Right. I mean, that's basically. That's
not. No, it's really not.
Where's my phone? I'm calling my congressman right now. I have to do it. She has limbo rings off the chart.
So we have another video. I have another video if you don't mind if I put it in the watch together.
Is there another video?
Yes. Okay. So
you broke your promise. I'm starting to feel a little Putin going on here.
You said this video was produced by some sort of U.S.-backed organization.
Yes.
Hillary. This was shot on Hillary Clinton's iPhone.
Yes, explain. Well, okay. I'm going to tell you. Well, let me before you go into it, I'm going to say that just because something is produced by the U.S. or they're funding something does not mean that the content of the video is not accurate.
I don't claim that anything in the video that is not correct. So here's the people who produced it. It's an organization called Whisper to Roar.
Right. Okay. It says I'm Ukrainian. Whisper to Roar in the video.
Whispering to Roar. Yes.
Whisper to Roar, and if you look at the people who are on if you go down on this page that I just sent you, about 2 scrolls down, you'll see top L to R. Writer, producer, director Ben Moses, inspiration, executive producer Larry Diamond. Now, who is Larry Diamond? I know this sounds conspiratorial, but we have to get into it.
I'm going to bring up the meme, Aydin. I can't help it.
Put my tinfoil hat on me. But Larry Diamond is an American political sociologist who has served as an advisor to numerous governmental and international organizations at various points in his life, including the U.S. Department of State, the United Nations, the World Bank, the U.S. Agency for International Development. He's a co-founder of, this is a very important thing about here, the National Endowment for Democracy, Journal of Democracy. He's a coordinator for the Hoover Institution's Iran Democracy Project. This is his Wikipedia page. Now that NED, National Endowment for Democracy, it's meant to keep in mind over all of this, right? Because it is actually kind of important. So if we look at the audit for the National Endowment of Democracy, which I have right here from the amount of, this is their audit for the money that the National Endowment of Democracy received as of 2019, 90% of it comes from the United States government. This ad was paid for by the U.S. Department of State. Okay.
Wait, what you just sent says that? Look at
the this guy who funded this video.
Well, okay, wait a minute. Which is he's one of many producers on this project.
No, he is the producer on this project. Okay. He is the producer on this project, and he is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. It's on their webpage as well.
Did they overpay, Aydin? Is that what you're insinuating? Like they paid $100,000 for this video?
I'm saying the United States fucking government paid for this ad.
Wait, what is this film?
if you'd like some more, here's another one.
Wait a minute. That clip you showed us, is that that's not from a larger film?
No,
is it?
That's a specific film that was produced by Larry Diamond as a part of the Whisper to Roar project.
Okay.
Which he is paid for, which is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, which receives 95% of its funding from the U.S. State Department. I have sent you another link that shows that documents reveal the U.S. spent $22 million promoting anti-Russia narratives in Ukraine in 2022.
What is the What is the film?
I like how she spun a pro-democracy movement into an anti-Putin.
Is this film about Ukraine or is it about something else? Oh no, Whisper to Roar.
I don't care about the film. It's an organization.
Well, you have to care about the film because you link me something that links this guy as a producer of this specific film.
All right, okay, but it's a group of people. So go to the Whisper to Roar thing. All right, if that's what you're talking about now, say organizations, say go to get involved. Go to organizations supporting the film. Look at the organizations supporting this film. What you're going to see the NED, the National Endowment for Democracy.
Okay, wait, hold on a sec. A Whisper to Roar tells the heroic story of courageous democracy activists in 5 countries around the world: Egypt, Malaysia, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe, who risk it all to bring freedom to their people. So this is a documentary called A Whisper to Roar.
It's an organization, actually.
Okay, but the film is called A Whisper to Roar too. Okay, and in this film that was made, Larry Diamond was a producer on this film, not this video we just saw, but this movie.
Yeah, he was on both, actually.
Executive producer, because that means he's just a money man.
Yeah, he was an executive producer.
The whole issue.
Yeah, but Larry Diamond is a private citizen. Who cares?
So this is not.
But they're funded by the U.S. government.
Larry Diamond is not a U.S. government official. Larry Diamond is the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase.
Wait.
Well, he's the producer. Sitch just said he's the executive producer on the thing.
Larry J. Diamond is an American political sociologist.
Okay, it's a different.
His entire field is the field of democratic studies. Okay, so it makes perfect sense that a guy whose entire field is being pro-democracy would be involved in a pro-democracy film as an executive producer.
That's funded by the State Department.
How is he funded by the State Department?
I just showed you. I literally showed you the fucking documents from their organization.
This is the National Endowment for Democracy document that you sent me. Is that what you're saying?
Which funds Whisper to Roar?
Okay. It says.
Bring it up. Put it on the
screen. Is he a government official?
No, but this is NGO stuff.
Okay, so he's a member of a nonprofit organization.
Where does it say in this document that they funded Whisper to Roar?
Because they have funded the NED. The NED, National Endowment for Democracy, funds Whisper to Roar, which funded that video that we watched. The NED.
Know that?
Yes.
Because the only thing in the video that indicates it has anything to do with Whisper to Roar is that it says in the title, "I am Ukraine, Whisper Roar."
Okay.
So you think this is a clip from a larger movie?
Well, I don't know. Is that what I'm asking?
It's not a clip from a larger movie. It's not a clip from a larger movie. This video was made by Whisper to Roar. I know that it looks like it's just this one documentary, but this clip was funded by the Whisper to Roar group, or whatever you want to call it. Okay? That's why they had these high quality cameras out there. The Whisper to Roar group is funded by the NED, which receives almost all of its funding from the U.S. government. This clip was funded by the U.S. government.
So, I think you're making too many connections here that I don't think are fair. In that you have this organization, the National Endowment for Democracy, which is some NGO that says their goal is to promote democracies in other countries. Whatever the fuck that means. Okay. And
I can tell you what it means. It means regime
you're going to
change.
interpret it.
It means regime change.
Yeah, you're going to interpret it very negatively. I'm going to interpret it very positively. Okay, so I don't want to get into the whole rigmarole about that. But so you have this organization, National Endowment for Democracy, some private NGO, but you're saying the government pays for all of or a substantial amount of
95%. Well, 90%. I did the calculation. 90%
of the money. Okay. And that this NGO donated money or is involved in the production of this Whispered Aurora film and the subsequent YouTube video we watched because that guy, Larry Diamond, was a producer on it.
He produced it.
And he's involved with the National Endowment for Democracy. Is that the argument?
Let me be real. This is a real tinfoil kind of association.
Yeah, where's the part where Larry becomes president of Ukraine? That's what I'm waiting for.
I mean, Larry is also the coordinator of the Hoover Institution's Iran Democracy Project.
I know he is. I'm well aware. Okay, hang on. Okay.
I
know.
Is he taking bribes? Where's the level of corruption here? I'm having difficulty
There's no corruption.
it.
There's no corruption. If I can reorient this, it seems really tinfoily and it is really tinfoily.
Okay.
But if I agree that it is,
this
is
so why would you bring it up then?
Because it's the first part of the evidence. I have more. This is the first part. This is part one.
Okay. Since we have limited time, because I know it's already almost 10 where I am, and for you, I'm sure it's like 6.
Oh no, I'll go all goddamn night. I got
but I don't want to go all goddamn night. So let's focus instead of going in chronological order. Let's focus on the more primary claims here and not the tinfoil claims.
Okay. Well, would you like to watch the video that I have in the watch together, which is this, however, is this is Deputy Oleg Zarov, who claimed that, remember those tech camps that I mentioned, that they were designed to train insurgents. And we read the article that was from the US State Department, right?
But isn't the guy you're citing is part of the political party that got ousted in 2014? He's obviously
so we just not believe anything he says.
Well, that's like saying, oh, Trump won because of Russia interference, or oh, the Canadian truckers are really, Confederate neo-Nazis. Like, this is what happens every movement. Every time it's in their political interest, they make the claim that the movement wasn't real, it wasn't an aggressive movement, and it's being funded.
So you don't want to listen to what this guy has to say?
Not really.
Yeah.
How does that's even remotely relevant?
It's ridiculous to the argument. Yeah.
Okay, well,
it would be more proof. It would be more proof if there wasn't any sort of corruption going on in Ukraine.
No, I mean, it doesn't even have to do with it. It'd be basically, this would be the equivalent of watching a video of AOC saying that January 6th was paid for by, Breitbart magazine or whatever the fuck claim she'd make about that. Like, it doesn't, you're like, okay, she'll say that, but I mean, she's not a valid source of information. She's incredibly biased.
Okay, that's fine.
Bias doesn't mean it's incorrect.
It doesn't, but I would need something further than just their word for it.
Yeah, it's a pretty big
but what
claim.
else you got to go on?
Well, we don't, but that's my point with the 2014 coup stuff. This is all speculation based on very biased people making very vague claims.
I feel like the phone call of people saying who they want to have in power is kind of shady.
Well, that's why I said let's get into the phone call.
Okay, let's get down to it. Okay. Euromaidan. So the Euromaidan protests begin against Yanukovych in Kiev.
Let me just add
November 2014. Yeah.
Let me just add one thing about the U.S. involvement in foreign countries.
Yeah, totally.
There's this perception, I think, that if the way I was talking to Anna about this, the way we have to conceptualize the world is that we are all tiny people at the feet of giant monsters, and the giant monsters are our countries. Except in Russia's case, where it's not the country of Russia, it's just Vladimir Putin. And we're all cheering for our monsters to win the war of global influence. Now, there's no world free of monsters. That doesn't exist. The world has these monsters in it. And I root for the American monster because I think it's the monster that brings us the most liberty. I know you don't. But I believe it's the monster that brings us the most liberty, democracy, freedom, and good old USA values.
I don't think the U.S. represents democracy in any way.
Well, that's fine.
But that's your perception.
I feel like there's a false perception here, which is that if the American monster were to go into its cave and just isolate itself and stop interacting, that all the rest of the world would magically become independent and would hold hands, and they'd all create their own independent sovereign nations, and they'd all get along huggy-buggy in the free market of ideas and trading.
This is literally what you think.
I don't think that.
No,
I think that's
an
remotely.
This is literally
position.
America's foreign policy.
No,
if we turn the world
no.
into liberal democracies, they will never fight. This is why you have NATO. This is why you have NATO. This is why you think if these people are all liberal democracies, they won't fight.
Perception that I feel. I know you guys haven't made this claim, but this is the underlying implication I hear often in these America's meddling arguments. Because if America retreats back to its cave and doesn't do anything, all the countries are not going to just magically become independent. What's going to happen is the big old Chinese dragon and the big old Russian bear monster are going to start coming in to the territory that was lost, because America leaving creates a power vacuum. And that vacuum is going to be filled by China and Russia. Okay. And I'd rather be filled by the good old US of A.
I don't want America to be world police. I don't want that at all.
God bless America. God bless.
I've never wanted the US to be world police.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
I have a question.
Yes.
If this is the position that you hold, why the hell is your country smashing the shit out of its own energy production and then buying Russian oil that's funded by the state? Why are you doing that?
Because unfortunately, our politicians have gone to this whole climate change stuff, and so they're decided very stupidly that it would make sense for them politically to be like, oh, we're not going to drill for oil, and then buy it from someone else, which really makes no difference in terms of global climate change whatsoever. But it convinces stupid people.
Okay, but
to vote for them in the next election.
All of us know this is funding their military because it's a state-owned apparatus. So what the fuck are you doing that for?
Yeah, we're against that.
And we could get into the Biden's involvement in Burisma.
Is it maybe
Can we
because
at
this
least
would fund
just
your
since this whole debate, since this whole
debate
debate is about whether or not Ukraine is corrupt or not, basically,
then let's get into
maybe
Maidan.
we should talk about Maidan.
Do you think that the EU is just as corrupt as, or America, in that fact, is just as corrupt as Russia?
Yes.
Okay. I fundamentally disagree with that on all levels.
And I'd like to know like what you're basing that on.
Right.
Can I maybe give my take on this?
Of course, Finn.
I think perhaps that the meddling by the not by the Europeans, by the Russians, maybe I might not start fucking World War III like it does with US and EU meddling. That would kind of be my position. Like my position is, which meddling is going to get us closer to World War fucking III?
So
America's involvement probably no.
So your daily life makes no difference to you. All you do is think about World War III 24/7. That encompasses your entire outlook.
What the hell does that have to do with
Well,
anything?
I'm just why this is such a weird claim. Go ahead, Sitch.
I know. I was going to say I understand as an individual citizen that maybe you could say the most pragmatic approach for me on a selfish level is to say, fucking let Russia take Ukraine. It's not going to impact me at all in any tangible way that I will notice, I believe, in my lifetime.
No.
And it avoids the possibility of World War III. I understand that argument. I don't think it's a pragmatic argument. I don't think it's a moral argument.
It's already impacting you, Sitch. Go fill up your tank with gas.
Yeah, but that's only because we're engaged in the sanctions. He's saying if we did nothing, if we just twiddle our thumbs and said, go take Ukraine.
Well, let me ask you that as this question: How much oil does Russia provide to the U.S.?
Less than 7%.
It's 7%. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. 7% crude oil, I believe.
Crude oil, yes, correct.
Yes, and I think about 10% is petroleum that's refined. I could be wrong.
I don't know about that one, but it's 7% crude oil. You're correct.
Yeah,
so really,
the
vast majority comes from Canada.
Right.
Well, okay. I want to also chat. You do realize saying let's not start World War III is not make you pro-Russia.
Do you guys buy into
this, right?
Well, but it makes you the side of the appeasement side.
It makes us a side of let's not antagonize another nuclear superpower and then blow each other shit up.
Well, that is appeasement. What are you talking about?
Well, look.
I just on the corruption thing.
Do you buy? Would be more destructive?
Aydin, do you buy into the Black Lives Matter argument that the police are fully corrupt and trying to kill black people indiscriminately?
No, but I think there are corrupt police officers.
Well, but I mean, you're saying
How does smashing private property help with that, though?
I'm not sure how these relate, but I think I see how I
well,
think
there
you're
are
saying don't paint the broad brush of corruption to everyone just because some organizations
wait a minute. Have you guys not been the entire time trying to claim that Russia is completely corrupt? Yes.
Russia is
corrupt. Yeah.
But Ukraine's
Russian
not
police are above the law.
So.
Okay. I'm sorry. So
are our police above the law? Because
why would they want to be part?
Black Lives Matter is founded on the idea that our police are above the law. That's why I'm asking you the question.
And I just said no, but I'm asking you now the question in response. And I said, no, I do not think the police are entirely corrupt. But you guys are saying that Russia is 100% unilaterally corrupt.
Yeah,
Ukraine is not. Ukraine is not. Right. I think you have to
provide
some evidence for that.
Well, let me. The most clear example of this, I think, on his face, is in 2014 when Yanukovych was going to be removed from office, or he was supposed to create the new elections to be removed from office. What did he do? He ran the fuck away to Russia.
They were going to kill him, man.
Okay. Yes, that's the point.
The narrative that he put forward to excuse himself running away.
Were you aware that there were riots going on right outside?
I'm very aware that there are riots going on outside.
Okay.
However, so you compare that action. And then when people sacked his house after he ran away, it was filled, like it had $100,000 chandeliers. He had a private golf course. He had a private underground shooting range. He was obviously hyper ultra corrupt. Okay.
Well, he's hyper rich or hyper corrupt, but the reality is that like they raided his house. Yes or no, Sitch? You just admitted
after he left. This is after he.
Would they not have done it beforehand? And
no, I don't think they would have. That's what I think. No, they raided his house because he left and fled to Russia and wasn't coming back.
Okay, let's talk about the EU snipers.
Okay, wait. And so let's compare this to Zelensky. Okay, Zelensky has the Russian army knocking on his fucking door to murder him and his family. Does he run away? Does he disappear into a fog of smoke? Does he say, okay, Russia, I'll do whatever you want? No, he digs in his fucking heels and says, fuck you, we're going to fight for our freedom.
Do you think Zelensky is an honestly, legitimately elected president?
We don't know.
How the fuck, if I'm corrupt, okay, if I'm some corrupt asshole who only cares about money, and that's all, why the fuck would I just say, okay, I'll just concede and do what Russia wants? Why the fuck would I start a war where all these people are going to fucking die, including myself and my family? It makes no sense.
Yeah, do you think Russia, like the simple thing for Russia to do is to try to buy Zelensky off? Do you think Putin made an offer to try to buy him off?
I mean, he might have, but I'll tell you this.
Do you think Zelensky took that offer?
No, but may I tell you what Zelensky has done?
Right.
May I tell you what Zelensky has done since January of this year? Okay.
What? Tell us.
Are you not aware? So, Zelensky. So Poroshenko leaves Ukraine for 1 month. The previous president, Poroshenko, leaves Ukraine for 1 month to, in his opinion, I mean, you can disagree with this, to engage in meetings in the rest of Europe. Zelensky, at that point, and his government brings over 120 cases against Poroshenko for corruption and then threatens to arrest him. But the Ukrainian courts say Zelensky's not allowed to do that.
He's fighting corruption.
He tried.
Oh, for fuck's sakes!
He's draining the swamp.
Yeah, it's like he's got half a dozen bills. They had a guy in Parliament that was there was an assassination attempt on when they were passing an anti-corruption bill.
In the 2nd of March of this year, Zelensky banned 3 television stations that were critical of him.
Well, no. Okay. They were not. Wait. Those television stations.
1K, News 1 and 112 Ukraine.
Those television stations were banned because they were sanctioning an individual who was being directly paid by Russia to promote Russia propaganda. And they sanctioned him, including all of his holdings, which included those television companies.
Right. He was corrupt.
Okay.
So can I ask you guys a question then?
Hey, when you fight corruption, you got to take the corrupt people off the playing field. Do you guys realize that?
Okay. No. Let me just ask a question.
So you can't have any.
That's part of draining the swamp.
Right.
Okay.
Remember the big line? You'd be in jail? No. Remember that line? Okay, everyone roared, oh, Hillary Clinton would be in jail. She's so corrupt.
Okay, so you're in favor of him doing that?
I'm in favor of him throwing corrupt politicians in jail. Yes, hell yeah. Lock them up and throw away the key.
Banning media.
Okay, so you are in favor then of Trump withholding money from Zelensky and saying, investigate the Bidens, and then you get weapons. Are you okay with that?
No, I'm not.
Why?
I'm
Why?
totally
why one
against
and not
that.
the other? Why one and not the other?
Wait, what are we comparing
Wait,
this
hold
to?
on. I was never in favor of Trump like withholding money.
No. What's what we're saying? But you don't favor that. But you're fine with Zelensky banning media stations. You're fine with him.
Listen, there is a huge huge difference between withholding aid to investigate someone that you believe is corrupt and someone that you've got the fucking evidence and.
His son was
by the way,
on the board.
They don't have the evidence because the Ukrainian court said he doesn't have the evidence to arrest Poroshenko.
Wait a minute. There's a huge fucking difference, and I know this pisses a lot of people off at the time. There's a huge difference between the president of the United States saying, "I'm withholding money that our Congress legally allocated to your country until you announce that you're investigating this company that has this entanglement with my main political rival in our upcoming election."
But
that's a world different than saying, "Hey, we investigated this guy and found out that he's fucking being paid by the Russians to promote Russian propaganda while we're in the middle of a fucking war with Russia. Okay. So we're sanctioning him and shutting down his property."
Okay, no,
these are very different.
No,
hugely different.
Let me just ask you a question. Is the fact that he is a political rival making him completely immune to any corruption investigation?
If they found evidence on him.
Okay, but his kid is literally on the board of the Ukraine.
I know.
Okay, in
we can talk about
the courts.
Biden
said it was wrong.
said
the courts disagreed. They said it was wrong for Zelensky to do what he was trying to do. So, you're talking about? Are we talking about
the corrupt court said that? Oh, I wonder why.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay, so now all of a sudden the Ukrainian government's corrupt now that it's convenient, right?
They're weeding. They're trying to weed out corruption, Aydin. That's what they're doing.
Trump did this.
But you just said the government was not corrupt until it's corrupt, and that's so convenient.
There are two types of players on the field. Okay, Aydin. There are people who are corrupt that are getting rich off of the corrupt system, and there are people who want to fight against that corruption. Okay. We have to make the distinction between the two.
Regarding Poroshenko, I don't know fucking jack shit about the charges levied at Poroshenko. I will say that I don't feel comfortable with a president.
I don't trust Poroshenko, by the way, either.
Okay,
to be clear,
that's fair.
I think he's probably corrupt as well. I agree.
Let's run against them.
I don't want to live in a society where the president of the country is using their power, whether it be Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or Zelensky, uses the power of their office to levy investigations, especially false and bullshitty investigations or fishing expeditions on the main political rival that they're running against. That's super fucking bad.
I agree.
Okay. I'm not in favor of anything like that. Just like how when Putin killed one of his main rivals.
Yes, he did.
Yes,
he did.
But Sitch, here's the one problem.
I just like to throw that in there.
The investigation,
no, he did. You're correct.
Investigation of Hunter Biden was well before Biden was running for office. That's the problem.
Does this have to do with Maidan?
No,
I'm curious.
Okay.
Hold on. We can talk about Burisma because that's one of the biggest fake news stories of our time.
How
we
is
could talk about how it's totally bullshit.
How is it fake news?
But I want to talk about the fucking phone call.
Let's get into Maidan. All right, let's get into it. Sorry.
Don't just skip to the phone call. We're just only talking about the phone call.
I don't remember if I told you this or if I only told Washington this, that when I talked to Jeff Feltman this morning, he had a new name for the UN guy, Robert Seri. Did I write you that this morning?
Yeah, I saw that.
He's now gotten both Seri and Ban Ki-moon to agree that Seri could come in Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
Are they just setting up? They're just scheduling here, right, Sitch?
Yeah, they're trying to set up meetings between.
Which is totally irrelevant to any of this fucking nonsense.
Well, they come back to it.
They do. Hang on.
So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing.
Yeah, but a lot of people are listening to this and they're hearing, "Oh, help glue this thing," and all this stuff. They're like,
and have the UN help glue it, and fuck the EU.
Who cares?
That's my favorite part.
I don't care.
She says it so.
I don't care.
Matter of factly. Fuck the EU.
What I'm so angry about with this entire thing is that people they fucking ignore everything else that's made in this call and they focus on that goddamn line. It's the least important thing she says here.
What?
Why? Why does she say fuck the EU?
It's the least. She doesn't care about the EU.
No, but hold on.
The context of why she's saying "fuck the EU" is important to understanding.
It is. But people just get so upset and focused on the fact that she said "fuck it."
But tell us why. Tell us why she says "fuck the EU."
If you hear this phone call,
because the U.S. is way more important in terms of their perspective than the EU.
No, so it's a little bit more than that. But the problem is like this is like if you took a random scene. If you just took the scene of Pulp Fiction where they talk about dead N-word storage, you'd be like, this is the most racist movie I've ever seen in my fucking life, right? But it's like, okay,
that's my problem with this.
Right. You just took this completely out of context situation. You don't understand anything.
I get very upset by that.
Right. But that's what's happening with this phone call.
Totally.
The context of this phone call is incredibly complicated. And people just hear Secretary of State talking about person to be prime minister, person becomes prime minister.
Fuck you. Thank you, Sitch. That's exactly why I have a problem with this exactly.
Explain it, Explain it, Sitch.
So
explain
the reason she's saying fuck the EU is because, and what she said before this, she said, it would be nice if that guy from the UN came to glue this all together. And that's because she appears from this phone call, wants Yats to accept the prime ministership under Yanukovych,
right?
Which I would assume would do wonders to helping quell.
I highly doubt that because they know Yanukovych is being deposed. So I highly doubt.
But wait, but that's why she's saying fuck the EU, because the EU, it seems like the US is saying, listen,
it's possible.
We're fine with Yanukovych continuing to be president and having Yats under him as prime minister. Where the EU would prefer if Yanukovych was completely deposed.
Is it so fucked that it's like we get to pick who the fucking PM is? It still seems fucked to me.
Oh my God.
Well, it's not good. Well, first of all, we're not
picking. We're
saying
pressuring.
We're pressure. Okay, but does that make it better?
No,
I'm not really sure it makes it better.
But
it does make it better. It makes it giantly better. What are you talking about? Like we could go have the CIA go in and rig their elections. I'd say that's much worse.
Well, would it make you feel better to know that Yats doesn't do what Nuland is saying? Because he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't accept the position until after Yanukovych is already gone.
But he accepts
because he wants someone else who can act under properly. Because Yanukovych would fuck him over if he was PM.
So he's doing the opposite of what Nuland wanted him to do. No, he doesn't.
He immediately accepts it under Turchinov, and then he becomes PM under Poroshenko.
The concern here is you're saying,
I don't like... Excuse me. He becomes PM twice over.
You're saying, I don't like that Nuland is coming in saying, I want so-and-so to be the prime minister of Ukraine. Okay.
But he becomes PM of Ukraine.
And she's saying, I want Yats to accept this position. Yats tells her, I don't know what he tells her, but Yats turns around and doesn't fucking accept the position. He does the opposite of what she wants.
Dude, I can't believe everybody.
Because the Yanukovych entire government's collapsing.
But why doesn't Nuland say that? Why doesn't Nuland say, Yats, I want you to not take the position because the government's collapsing? Why didn't she say that? Because they knew
a new government was being put into place.
No, but she's saying the opposite of that. If she wants Yanukovych to go down in flames, she should. The way that
there's no mention, but there's no mention of Yanukovych at all in this call.
The way this phone call would be very damning is if it was the opposite. If Nuland said, "I want Yats," and Klitschko to say, "Fuck you, Yanukovych, we're not accepting the positions," and then we see in reality. That's exactly what happened. They say, fuck you, Yanukovych. We're not taking the position. But no, she's saying, I want him to take the position. And he doesn't. It's the opposite.
But Sitch, he does under Turchinov.
I understand it, but that's the future. That's not what this phone call's about.
This
phone call is not about what happens when Yanukovych is gone.
Sitch, but hold on. You do realize that doesn't involve the context of time, right? Like if she says, like, I want you to take the position, and he doesn't take it now, but he takes it under the next person, he's still in power.
No, it does involve, because she wants him, for whatever reason, she wants him to literally accept the position, which I would imagine is to quell the protests and to calm things down in Ukraine.
But then
that's why she wants him to take the position.
But then he says no, and then I want elections as well.
No, he says, I'm not going to take the position because I want Yanukovych out of office, which is directly contradicting what Nuland
says. But then he says, I want elections.
Okay, but that's not what that's the opposite of what Nuland's saying.
No one's elected to make. Turchinov is just selected as the president, as the temporary president. He's selected as a temporary president after Yanukovych is deposed. And then after that, yes, Yatsenyuk is made PM under the presidential election where Poroshenko becomes president.
Does Poroshenko put Yatsenyuk or the acting president?
Poroshenko and both. Okay, so as the temporary acting president, Turchinov makes Yatsenyuk his PM, and then when their actual presidential election occurs and it becomes Poroshenko is the president, then he also makes Yatsenyuk the PM.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. He's leader under the interim presidency and the new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not right. And Nuland's saying that's not what Nuland's talking about.
But can I just point something out?
Yes.
Can we say, hypothetically speaking, that Nuland says, I want you to be PM. But he says no, because I can't do anything if he's still in power. So he says, Nuland, not yet, but he says no in the meantime. And later on says, I can do a deal, but I want elections to get you out. Can that be a feasible bit that we may be missing? And that's maybe why he's saying no now.
They could have had a conversation, which, I mean, we don't know what the conversation was.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, just because it doesn't happen now and we can't see it, doesn't mean that this is what happens and we don't see it. Does that make sense?
Of course, that's possible.
Yes.
And I agree it's possible, but we have no... Yes. I'll be clear, though, Spoon, we don't have any evidence of that.
Of course.
I know, but that also makes more sense to me, because he can't do anything really as PM if the opposition is the fucking president, because they can just veto anything he tries to push. So that would make more sense to me.
Right, but so then why is Nuland saying for him to take the prime ministership under Yanukovych or whatever his name is?
Because they want to quell the protests. And he's saying no. This was your argument.
I understand, but that seems to be counter. That means that the U.S. is fine with a more stable Ukraine under Yanukovych.
No, okay, that may be true.
But Yanukovych.
That may be true, but Yatsenyuk maybe want more.
Yanukovych
maybe he does. But that shows that Yatsenyuk is not just listening to whatever and doing whatever America wants, that he's an independent person doing independent things.
They literally say that they want to bring somebody in to glue this whole thing together. Why do you think they say that?
Because it's favorable to the West.
Because it's fucking unstable. Because it's not a fucking a shoe-in.
Of course, if you want a stable regime good for you, then you would obviously want a stable.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me that
you're making this. Okay, I understand.
Wait. Is it equally ridiculous that Russia created this entire situation?
You think Russia created this entire situation?
Yes.
Yes.
They did. Do you have a single?
They pressured Ukraine to duck out of the EU deal that caused the whole fucking protest to begin with. So we've established this crazy movie-looking central casting woman here. She's saying fuck the EU because
Victoria Nuland.
Well, she wants the deal that's going to lead to. She wants the deal that's going to lead to Blue Eyes. I'm going to call her. She wants the deal that leads to stability right now because people are going to die, and she says fuck the EU because they're dragging their feet and they could send their guy to glue this all together, as she's saying.
Right.
No, exactly. And I think we've got to do something to make it stick together, because you can be pretty sure that if it does start to gain altitude, the Russians will be working behind the scenes to try to torpedo.
Oh, look, the Russians don't like this deal, huh?
They'll be working behind the scenes, guys, just like we are, to try to stop the deal.
No, but we should just go away and let them do whatever they want. That's
But wait, you guys understand.
Don't want to be a globo homo, you know.
But Adam and Sitch, you understand that the reality is that both the U.S. and the Russians are working behind the scenes to fuck around with the Ukrainian politic, right?
Yes,
That's what they're admitting to here.
So would it make you feel more comfortable if we could get an ironclad agreement with every single other nation that we weren't going to interfere in these situations, and then we could just all be hands off?
No, because that's not realistic.
It's not realistic, but I don't.
Oh, it's not realistic. Funny you say that. Well, I was just saying hypothetically.
Yeah, you know what isn't either realistic as well is expanding military around Russia and not expecting them to get pissed off.
Yeah.
That's also not realistic.
And again, the fact
under
that
the
this is
guise
out
of
there
we're
right now,
protecting people,
I'm still trying
they
to
don't
figure out
quite see it
Yeah.
that way. They also think that their nation has a destiny and they don't like you. And you coming here with your big dick swing and thinking like, well, we are a democracy and you are not. Fuck you. That's your attitude. That is how you come off to them.
Right. But of course,
you know how Russia comes off to us?
But that's what I'm saying.
But how do we come off to Russia?
You,
It's the same
why?
thing.
Why are you
come
so
off like the smug asshole, Adam? That's the thing. Your attitude is the typical elitist American of fuck you, we're better than you. That is
we are better than them. What the
we're
fuck?
Better than Russia. I don't know who else we're talking about.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You come off like this to these people, and this attitude antagonizes them just as much as them antagonize you. There's no middle ground here.
It antagonizes.
I don't give a fuck what antagonizes Putin in terms of his
antagonizes the shit out of Putin.
America in the 1940s was better than fucking the Nazis. Okay, and they could say that to fucking Hitler's face. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Why is that? How's an argument?
I agree, but I don't. Okay, I agree with you. But the reality is that right now, I'm not really sure how much better we are off than.
Do you think the Russian people like Putin? Do you think they're not people who are just fucking sick of?
I think a lot of them do. I actually think a lot of them do.
Yeah.
And I say that as someone who, I mean, like
I think you just like him
oh,
because you're American.
I read propaganda. No, I mean, you can say whatever you want, but I look on Poll every day, and I see Russian people.
Poll is a fucking cesspool that is not accurate of anyone.
And it's also full of shills. Let's be clear, of Russian shills. Let's be aware of that. So
right. And I mean, we were complaining not just a few short weeks ago. We were all complaining about Canada's treatment of the truckers who were protesting and saying, "Wow, them freezing people's funds, this is too far." Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Right now, when people in Russia, people are protesting against Russia invading Ukraine, they're not blocking off access to the Kremlin. They're literally just protesting in a public space, and they're getting arrested and put in jail.
Yeah.
For
over 15 years. 15 years is the sentence.
Yes,
this is a horribly autocratic, corrupt society that dwarfs corruption that happens in the U.S.
None of us would disagree with you.
No, but you are.
You are
disagreeing.
disagreeing. That's the whole point.
The U.S. is not much better than Russia. I'm saying that's not remotely true.
No, you're actually. This is where we're failing to I think communicate.
Yeah, of course.
All we've talked about over the long course of this conversation is why Ukraine is not super pro-West, or why it might be pro-West, but why it's seen by its people as not pro-West, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And the whole issue, that's what we've been talking about.
Well, no, we know. We talked. The reason Ukraine is split is because there's an ethnic Ukrainian population and there's an ethnic Russian population that was imported there 60 years ago.
We went over why it's more complicated than that based on the history of corruption within the state. Did you not understand
a lot of people view continuing relations with Russia as continuing the corruption of the Soviet era. That's how they perceive it.
And a lot of people don't want the corruption.
Yes.
Right.
They don't want the corruption of Russia.
And I agree that, by the way, I'm not going to disagree with you on this. Russia is absolutely corrupt. Russia is absolutely trying to corrupt Ukraine, but so is the West. And so I don't see either side as actually being on the good. I don't see there being a good person.
Fuck the EU.
No, we're almost done with the phone call.
Do you really want to do the phone call?
We have to finish
We have to read super chats. We haven't read any super chats.
The phone call, actually, I don't think.
Who cares about the phone call?
We had to finish.
Try to torpedo it.
Finish it. Okay.
And again, the fact that this is out there right now,
I'm
still trying to figure out in my mind why Yanukovych did that. But in the meantime,
he's trying to figure out why Yanukovych did that. Why he made the offer to the guy. Yes, I thought these people were picking the guy. Why is he trying to figure out why he did it if he's literally fucking picking the guy?
So you understand though
you're getting confused by what this means.
Well, no, the line of him saying why Yanukovych did that. That's because even Jeffrey here doesn't understand why Yanukovych offered the PM position to Yats.
You think he would understand that if he's literally picking the person he told him to pick?
No, but it's more confusing than that.
Just so right now, we understand that literally, I think I am the only person in fucking human existence that understands the context of this phone call. before this conversation.
Go ahead.
Every other person that I've heard discuss this phone call. I don't think
so, Sitch, but go ahead.
Every other person that I've heard discuss this phone call leaves out the context that they're talking about Yanukovych offering this position to Yats. I haven't heard a single person mention that but me. And they're all saying this is the U.S. deciding who's going to be the prime minister after Yanukovych is gone. And this line proves that that's not true.
Not true. They don't even know what's going on.
Well, no,
they're
but it
fucking
proves
in the dark.
that they're directly talking about Yanukovych offering the position.
They're talking about Yanukovych doing the snipers.
The snipers hasn't happened yet.
What?
Am I wrong on this?
It's not a different
You're
phone call.
hugely wrong.
That's a
different phone call.
That's
yeah, that's the EU one. Yeah.
Sorry, I did get that.
Which we didn't even get to. But.
Ouch, but we're not going to get to. Let's get through this phone call.
All right. Okay, sorry.
But in the meantime, there's a Party of Regions faction meeting going on right now, and I'm sure there's a lively.
Who's this
fucking
guy?
That's Oleg Telhanibok. He is a legitimate neo-Nazi.
Yeah. He's the guy that they don't want, right?
No, but
they do not want him. Yeah.
Listen to what he just said.
Because he's uncontrollable. He's the difficult one.
So the Party of Regions is the party that Yanukovych is part of.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yanukovych is the Party of Regions. You're correct.
Right.
Yanukovych that. But in the meantime, there's a Party of Regions faction meeting going on right now, and I'm sure there's a lively argument going on in that group at this point. But
so he's saying, I don't know why Yanukovych offered them this. I'm sure his own party is upset about it.
Yeah, they're arguing about it. Continue.
Anyway, we could land Jelly side up on this one if we move fast. So let me work on Klitschko, and if you can just keep. I think we want to try to get somebody with an international personality to come out here and help to midwife this thing. And then the other issue is some kind of outreach to Yanukovych, but we probably regroup on that tomorrow as we
see. They're questioning whether or not they should even talk to Yanukovych.
No, because Yanukovych is being deposed.
We know that.
Oh, I don't know.
The other issue here is some kind of outreach to Yanukovych.
And by the way, that woman, that's Victoria Nuland, and that's Jeffrey Piat.
Well, they wouldn't be trying to outreach to Yanukovych
if they're deposing him. Yes.
Throw him under the bus.
But he's about to be deposed any second.
It's a month. It's a month. A month is not a second. A month is a far time span away.
30 days. Yeah.
Less than 30 days.
We're almost to the.
It's almost. I think it's almost exactly 30 days. It's like 28 days or something.
Issue is some kind of outreach to Yanukovych, but we probably regroup on that tomorrow as we see how things start to fall into place.
See how things fall into place. Oh, I thought they structured everything. I thought they already know how everything's supposed to fall into place.
Just finish.
It certainly seems that.
So on that piece, Jeff, when I wrote the note, Sullivan's come back to me VFR saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deep to stick.
What happens?
So Biden's willing.
By the way, when Arseniy Yatsenyuk becomes PM, guess who calls him the next day?
Biden.
It's Vice President Joe Biden.
Right. Okay, so that's the end of the phone call. I don't know what this other stuff.
But unironically, no lie, the next day after Arseniy Yatsenyuk becomes PM, Joe Biden calls him and gives him the attaboy. It's a real thing that happens. We have the phone call. It's all recorded within.
Well, no, we have it recorded that he called him. I don't believe the contents of that phone call
congratulated him.
Yes,
he congratulates him. Yeah,
right. That was put out by the White House. Yes, they called him and congratulated him.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Does that not seem a little bit sussy to you?
No, not really.
Okay. Oh well. Okay. So, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on it.
Okay, that's fine.
All I would say, we had a lot more information that didn't get covered, and that's okay because it's a massive document that I've created. But what I would say is that basically, as my TLDR end statement here, because I think we're coming to a conclusion, is that I do think that the United States had a vast amount of influence in the 2014 revolution that we didn't even go over to it in an excessive degree. I think the United States basically did it, much as they did in Libya. It was France did in Libya, was heavily responsible for it. I think that it's a crazy amount of international paternalism, and I don't appreciate it whatsoever.
Okay. I mean, but I just feel like we're going in circles because it sounded like you accepted that if America draws back, Russia and China are just gonna they're just gonna fill the vacuum, right?
Okay, perhaps I could put this in a different perspective. How can I phrase this? What we're saying is with the spreading of democracy, you have to put into account you are not the only player in the world. You also have other countries that have nukes.
Right.
And you can maybe play the world puppeteer as you think in your heads because you're doing good.
Right.
The problem is there will come a point where you fuck with the wrong country and shit kicks off. And the point that the people on our side of the aisle is, it is not a good idea for you to keep doing this because A, your track record of foreign policy is really shit. And two, this does not make you look good in the eyes of the world. And they're worried that you are going to step on someone's toes and it's going to be too big for your boots. Also when you look at you guys funding Russian oil, that is now you're buying Russian oil even though you can make your own, which is funding Russia's armies. That makes no sense. You guys are buying a crap load of money or stuff from China. I know that's private citizens doing this, but many people look at your business model and think, why the fucking hell are you funding a superpower that's going to rival you? That to many people, they look at you and just think you look kind of nuts.
Well, okay, but regarding the first point, what this looks like, basically, this whole situation is, you have all these countries. Let's say we have U.S. and Russia, and the U.S. and Russia are playing this chess game with Ukraine, and they're doing all these little moves that are kind of like economic, or the behind the scenes. They're all trying to exert their influence. But then guess what happens? America wins the chess game. So Russia gets pissed, and they say, fuck you, and they knock the board over and say, we're invading. Okay, that's basically what happened. Or that's basically how you're conceptualizing what happened.
But what point is there maybe something you could do differently that could not result in this?
You want us to lose the chess game? Okay.
There is.
No, we don't.
There is something we could do.
Leave the Ukraine as a neutral ground so that there is a stopgap between Poland and Russia.
I don't think that's a feasible solution. Because if the people in Ukraine say, hey, we want to enjoy positive trade relations with EU, the EU would have to say, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to offer trade relations with you because we're afraid it will piss off Russia.
But you can do trade relations but not become part of NATO.
Yeah,
but that's what started all these protests, were the EU trade relations. It had nothing to do with NATO.
It actually did. It did have indirectly.
Oh my God. We need to move on. Let's go to super chats. All right.
Yeah,
we're not going to convince him. I feel like anyone who's stuck with us for this long definitely understands the situation a lot more. So I had no idea that we had so many isolationists in our audience because everybody's losing their minds that America has done anything in the world. Listen, I was against the Iraq War. I still think the Iraq War was a huge mistake. I don't think you can install democracies into places.
Precisely.
I think I'm talking here, Aydin. I think
I am agreeing with you.
Usually when Sitch and I I don't think that we can install democracies around the world. I think when our politicians believe that they can, they're selling you a lie. There's a much different situation going on here, and I think the details matter. I think people have to want democracy, and that's a world apart from invading a country to make it some sort of democratic regime. So,
well, I'll say this.
I do agree with you 100%, Adam. Sorry if I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was only trying to be like, yeah, because I was actually trying to agree with you. But yeah, I agree with you.
Okay.
I'll say this. I don't think anywhere else on the internet exists this much of an in-depth conversation about these specific topics that we talked about.
Definitely not. No, nobody's having this conversation.
No one had gotten into this in-depth into all these little factoids than we did now. So
yes,
I'm gonna pat ourselves on the back for that.
And thank you guys for allowing me on to be autistic.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.